Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Diane Shawcroft and Jennifer Leuth, who are suspected to be victims of the Arizona Souvenir killer. Currently I'm looking at the website unsolvedmysteries.fandom.com. They have a wiki and that has all the information that I'll be working from today. It says, in 1996, 20-year-old Diane Shawcroft and her best friend, 19-year-old Jennifer Leuth, left their homes in Colorado and moved in with Diane's older sister Kristina in Glendale, Arizona. The three shared a small apartment and often got on each other's nerves. On May 24th, after an argument with Kristina, they left for a mini-mart a few blocks from their home. They didn't take anything with them, so Kristina assumed that they would be back soon. Around 7 p.m., Diane and Jennifer arrived at the mini-mart. The cashier said that they bought cigarettes and soda. Instead of leaving, they lingered around on a bench outside for 2 hours. Then an unidentified man in a blue pickup truck drove up and began talking with them. After doing so for a few minutes, they got into the truck and mysteriously vanished. 3 months later, two hunters in a remote desert 100 miles north of Phoenix came upon Diane and Jennifer's bodies. They had both been murdered, but the cause of death could not be revealed due to the ongoing investigation. The area is extremely isolated, about 16 miles from the Northeast Highway. Police began looking into their personal lives to see if they may have crossed paths with their killer. While in Phoenix, they attended numerous parties and nightclubs. It is possible that they met their killer at one of them. However, no solid suspects have been identified. Soon after Diane and Jennifer's bodies were found, their parents made a shrine, placing 2 crosses and pictures of them on that spot. After that, police put the area under occasional surveillance. 4 years later, on September 29, 2000, police found that the pictures had been removed from their frames. Police believe the killer might have stolen them because the location was not released to the public. Despite this, the killer has never been identified. Moving on to suspects, police believe that the killer was very familiar with the area where Diane and Jennifer's bodies were found. It was extremely isolated and only accessible with the help of a pickup truck or a 4-wheel drive. They suspect that the killer had personal knowledge of the area and may have hunted and camped there. Jennifer's father, Robert, believes that the killer might not have acted alone and that an accomplice was involved. Police would also want to question the unidentified man in the blue pickup truck. It is believed that Diane and Jennifer knew him. According to the cashier, it appeared he was friends with them. He has never been identified. At the time, he was 31 to 33 years old with dirty blonde or brown hair and a week's growth of facial hair. He had scratches on his right arm and was wearing a greasy denim jacket. The truck was described as an early 1980s Chevy with tinted windows, chrome bumpers, a broken taillight, several body dents, and badly faded paint. And that is about it. It just says that it's until now unsolved. They've done some analysis on strands of hair fibers collected from the crime scene. Investigators are hoping that the evidence will help identify the killer. So we really only have one suspect, and we don't even know if this person actually did it. They are just the last person to have seen them alive. And the area is so remote that only a few people are expected to have knowledge of it and have a capability to get there. But in any case, we don't really know too much else. And that is why I was asked to take a look at this case using the tarot. We're going to start off with the Tarot Mucha deck, which is currently on the table. And for any further questions, moving on to the Harsh Tarot, which is this one. Now, as per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as I have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Alright, let's take a look what we've got. So we're starting off with the Hermit in reverse, followed by the Chariot and the Hierophant in reverse. So the Hermit in reverse is kind of like stepping out, and I think this kind of symbolizes the girls having gone to the store to avoid dealing with things, like they had just had that argument with the older sister. There's a lot of movement here as well, because they're kind of just moving away, I guess, from whatever it is that was bothering them, the shadow side that's kind of like creeping through here. So they're just kind of in this I want to go places phase. Both of them, even though they did spend several hours outside of the store after they purchased their sodas and cigarettes. So they were kind of looking to go somewhere, but perhaps not being able to go on their own occasion. And I feel like these first two cards in particular show that they were just looking to get away. And then we have the Hierophant in reverse over there, which is somebody whom is seen as an important figure. And I think this may be referencing the person that showed up in the truck, who was kind of seen as this authority figure of some sort, at least had some type of sway over them, like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, and therefore they were willing to listen to them. Now, the card that follows this is the Five of Swords, and it's in reverse, which I feel like is showing how there was no arguing. And what I mean by that is mostly that they were not going to go against this person. Like, they were showing up in the time that they needed to go somewhere, and they're like, okay, we're not going to ask any questions. So this is kind of like a situation where they get in the car, and initially they're like, great, we're going somewhere. We're going to do something. We're not going to get stuck here. And then it kind of slowly turns around. They start to see red flags, warning signs. They're like, I don't know about that, but they're still in this mood of, oh, this is the ride out of here. We're not going to question anything. What's going to happen to us? Kind of like going against their better intuition, ignoring red flags. But then we do see here that they are alerted to how there's definitely something not right, because the sun is in reverse, and that usually is like a sundown event. Things are not well, they were not what they seemed, and they're becoming aware of that right now. We do see a Queen of Swords popping up here on the end of the first row, and I feel like this may be one of the girls, or maybe a combination of both, that were trying to talk their way out of this, trying to think of things. Like, they were confronted with this situation like, oh, things are not quite what we wanted, but it's the Sun card, so they may be thinking there might still be a silver lining if only we play our cards right. Like, they're initially like, oh, we need to get out of here, this is our ticket, and when they're in the car, eventually they're like, this is not quite what we had in mind, but it's okay, we're going to be able to work our way out of this if we're just smart, if we're just careful, pick our words carefully, think of possible escape routes, that type of thing. So they're in this situation like also kind of getting this feeling of, well, stuff like this happens to other people, we'll be fine, this will just be something that we can talk to other people about, and then maybe also possibly thinking about how they are going to justify that they even got in that situation in the first place. Feeling like maybe people were or are going to be questioning their choices in the first place, like, why did you get in that person's car? They're kind of like preparing for the future discussion that they might have later. Also kind of shown here with the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, kind of like, oh, I didn't make a very good choice there, kind of maybe berating themselves over that choice as well. And we see that they're carefully picking their words and options again, or even more so because we have the High Priestess here with the Two of Pentacles right next to them. So they're continuing to try and be smart about this. They're trying to intuit answers to questions that they can't quite get answered in the real world, perhaps. Also maybe looking for signs, maybe looking for are they gonna like get a red traffic light at some point? Are they gonna be able to jump out the car? Are the doors locked? Can I just quickly roll down a window? Something like that. Just trying to quickly work out what it is that they could possibly do, while also balancing their options with the Two of Pentacles, possibly trying to play into their captor's hand to try and get them to calm down or something like that, in order to find some way out, or perhaps change their mind about what it is that they had said they were planning on doing. We have the Three of Pentacles on the end here. I'm going to put that over here for now because we still have a couple other cards to go through, namely Judgment, followed by the Eight of Cups and the Seven of Pentacles, all three of them in reverse. So this is quite literally, we made a bad call. This is us being judged for our bad calls. We can't walk away with the Eight of Cups in reverse. And also the chickens are coming home to roost, that type of thing with the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. So this is their moment of realizing that we can't get out of this. This is our own fault. And we really should have known better. Why did we do this? Just all these different thoughts and emotions going through their head, like if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. But there are two of them, of course, and we have the Three of Pentacles on the end here, as I put the other three back, who is showing that they did try to work together. So the two girls are probably trying to cooperate, possibly cooperate with their captor. Again, still trying to do whatever it is that they can in order to get out of this situation with their lives. And I think that they're willing to make all sorts of sacrifices in order to make that happen. So I think they are in a very agreeable, quote unquote, mood here, just trying to get through this somehow, not trying to get in anybody's way, not trying to upset anybody, just trying to work together in order to get out of this, in order to be able to get out of this. So let's see what happens next. A couple of cards here already. Four of Pentacles in reverse, so that is an investment made that did not pan out. We have the Moon in reverse, so secrets are still being held, but also partially revealed, I feel. And then we have the Hierophant again. Okay, so there's still the authority here. It's kind of like they tried very hard to work with them, with the captor, to try and get things sorted out, but that turned out at some point to be clearly a mistake, because the Moon is revealing that there were plans that were in place all along, and that their captor was not going to be dissuaded from that. It seems as though that's what these cards are trying to say. And the Hierophant is back. This time it's upright, but I feel also this is kind of showing that in this situation, their captor was the law and everything else that comes with that, and therefore they had full control of the situation, and all they really had, the only option they really had was to go along with that. So this is the point where they realize that there is no control left on their side. What else can we see? Oh, there's a card right here. Two cards rather. We have the Queen of Wands, who is very practical and very willful as well. And we have the Six of Cups. So we're calling back on something that came from the past. Interestingly enough, the Queen of Wands here is drowning this crow. They're kind of sitting on top of this crow. So this may be them trying to overpower their captor. An attempt was made at the very least. Maybe thinking back on things that they had seen in the past. Maybe they've dealt with somebody in the past that was trying to do something to them that they did not appreciate. But it kind of looks like the Queen of Wands made at least one effort to drown out this assailant of theirs. And they may have been a little bit too cocky about that, because they appear to be dangling this star inside the crow's mouth, like, oh, look, I outsmarted you and you thought you were so good. Maybe thinking that they had seen, or maybe they had seen something in the past about how to attack people or something. Like, the combination with the Six of Cups card makes me think that maybe they had seen some self-defense moves, like on TV or something like that, or wherever, and they may have thought that they could execute those moves, and they were definitely very willful. This is definitely one of the more willful of the two that thought that they could take care of this situation on their own. The rabbits on the Six of Cups kind of remind me of how maybe they weren't quite as powerful as they thought they were, physically powerful in this case. Kind of like a last-ditch effort, I feel. And then we have here the Four of Cups in reverse, and we have the Three of Pentacles again. Okay, so the Four of Cups, not really being able to make any choices. There are no choices to be made, and I think they're realizing that they cannot do what it is they thought that they could do. Once again, a rabbit theme. As you can see, they are wearing a rabbit suit of sorts. So I guess this is them being forced to back down, and now we are cooperating for real because we have the Three of Cups back again. Before, it was just to try and get out of the situation, but in this case you can see that one of the birds is definitely a little bit bigger than the other two, or at the very least has more of a sway, and now it's like full cooperation mode. We're not going to try that again, don't worry, that was just a joke, I was just trying to see what you would do. Something like that is coming up. And then we have the Seven of Cups, wishing for things to be better, but they're not. Every time I see this Seven of Cups, I'm noticing the snakes at the bottom of what is supposed to be a horse. So this is really wishing for some way out, and then finding that actually there is no thing to wish for anymore because the snake in the grass is not going away. This one, the world upside down, and then the tower as well. That one fell on the ground. So the world in reverse I often see as being hidden from the world, and I think this is indeed the part where they either realized or it was pretty clear that they are not going to return to civilized society as they knew it, if at all. And the tower was kind of on its side, but I see it more as a reverse. I feel like this is pointing towards a tower moment where things are just irreversible and they cannot walk away from it. I think that they realized that at that point. And things are just irreversibly done, I think. It's not just from before, like, oh, we can't walk away from this, that we had with the Eight of Cups that we had earlier, but this is also things have been done now that cannot be undone, and it's just irreversible damage. Oh, that one's flipped, and that one wants to go on the table. We have here the Queen of Pentacles. All right, so we're being very practical here, regardless of the situation. Possibly thinking still, like, if I just cooperate in some way, or if I just count my losses and move on, things will be okay. I feel like this is a very cold mindset that we are currently seeing, because the Queen of Pentacles is very good at balancing their finances, so to speak, and seeing what ends up at the bottom of the line. I think this is them cutting losses and trying to figure out if there's anything that can be saved. The Lovers in reverse, showing that there is definitely a break of a bond with somebody or something. Maybe no longer believing in certain things. Like, I really see, since this is a very heavily religion themed card in this case, because I believe these are Hindu gods, at least one of them is, and kind of like showing that the peace and harmony that they may have felt through some type of belief system or certain moral codes that they thought everybody held, they're breaking up with them, because obviously that's not what's happening here, and it's just breaking with past beliefs about how the world worked, and possibly also with what lies beyond it. Like, this may be a moment where they feel like there is no God, which I imagine a victim of such a horrible crime would feel. Like, where is my savior? I think that's kind of what's being shown here, and that I think is also coming from the Queen of Pentacles, in a sense like, okay, I gotta be practical here, because obviously the world is not what I thought it was, and good people do end up in a lot of trouble. I don't really deserve this, but I just have to get through it, something like that. And we have the Emperor here. So again, instead of the Hierophant, we have the Emperor. So this is now a person who is lording over them, quite literally. They are the world right now to them. So whoever the perpetrator is now their one main source of authority and law, and they're in control 100%. Ace of Swords, maybe thinking up things that might help them in some way, or tried to think of things. Like this might be them coming up with some type of bargaining ideas, like, oh, if I just do this and then we can maybe work something out. Like they had that moment earlier where it just turned out that they're not going to get away from this, because obviously there's like this secret. The moon revealed that earlier, like there was no way to get out of this other than what it is that they had in mind. But there is of course always this phase where you're still in denial about what your fate might be, and you're still trying to get out of it somehow. I feel like that's what we're looking at. Like they're noticing that this person is now in complete control, and they're still trying to please them somehow, coming up with ideas to try and get out of this. And then we have the 10 of Wands on its side. I think that's like kind of being tired of the whole thing, carrying a burden, just tired in general, possibly also giving up. Just complete surrender, I think, because they're just too tired to keep fighting. They're just not capable of keeping fighting. Like the Queen of Wands that we had earlier is now finally letting go, because there's just nothing that they can do anymore. I kind of feel we're at the point where one of the girls is already no longer with us. I feel like this is maybe the one remaining girl initially trying to plead, and then feeling that there's nothing else that can be done, and just being too tired to carry on. And they're just trying to work with them, trying to be harmonious. Yeah, this is definitely a very last-ditch effort to try and get into the mindset of their captor, to try and be in harmony with them somehow. They're giving up, and this is like, they're basically giving up their rights to leave the situation under their own conditions, and therefore they're just trying to be harmonious. I'm working very hard on that. We have definitely a lot of focus. I feel like after a while they may have almost convinced them, the captor that is, to be more gentle with them. Of course, we know that that didn't actually end up happening. Oh, got a bunch of cards here that fell off screen. So they tried very hard to work on this harmony with the captor, but as you can see here, we have the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, and that is showing that it didn't actually pan out. Ultimately, they didn't fight though, because we have the Five of Wands in reverse, so there was no longer a struggle there. And then we have the Seven of Wands, so coming for their position. They're not actually they're not putting up a fight anymore. I think this is both pointing towards them not really being in a state of fighting, but they're also not really fighting it off, because the Seven of Wands is mostly like people coming for your position, but as you can see, the person is standing in a position where they would try to fight off anybody who is coming for them. But this is a reverse version, so I feel like they didn't or weren't able to do that anymore. I feel like this is the part where the second girl, the last of the two, does eventually leave us as well. So I would now like to go back to the Hush Tarot to see if we can ever see any justice in this case, because I feel like this is the part where the deed is done. And they do have that person with the blue truck as a potential suspect. They have a sketch of them. We don't know if that is actually the person who did it. Are we ever going to see anybody being brought to justice though? Okay, we have this one. Two of Cups. Alright, so this is an interesting card to pull for that question. Two of Cups, maybe that there is somebody who is signing up for solving this case, who is going to work very closely, or is perhaps already working very closely with the other people on the job. I think the person over there with the dark hair, she has a very queen-like energy to her. and the other person seems to be coming to their aid, and they're both kind of cradling this skeleton. There's a couple more at the bottom there, but I mean, this main skeleton is almost like there's two people coming together to try and solve this case, focusing on the victims, and they're like almost defenders in a way, the way that they're kind of positioned like that, like they're trying their very best to work on this case and bring it to a satisfying conclusion. We have the Five of Cups here. They're not actually planning on letting it go soon, because normally the Five of Cups is crying over spilled milk and not looking at anything that's left behind that could still be of value. In this case, I feel like they are trying to ignore all the things that have been lost and indeed looking at the silver lining and just trying to work their way through things together. You have the Hanged Man here. This is in reverse though, so they're not really able to take on a different perspective, which is unfortunate because they may be stuck on a certain path, like a certain mindset that they both have, which is also kind of pointed towards by the Two of Cups, like they're just of the same mind, and they may be looking at a certain angle of this case and just not being able to let that go, which might be unfortunate. They may need to reevaluate some of their evidence, possibly look into some other people, and maybe let go of certain things that they've been trying to work on that hasn't exactly led to a result yet. Then we have here the Nine of Swords in reverse. I don't think that they're too worried about not taking on this new perspective. This card has some rocks flying out of her hair, which is something unusual. I think that's supposed to symbolize like a certain heaviness, I think, weighing on the mind, but it also gives me a little bit of a tower vibe, the way that it's kind of like crumbling. They may be kind of stuck in their way like that. Like normally the tower is not a great event for anybody to have, but they are often necessary, like if it's a normal type of tower situation, like out with the old, in with the new, that type of thing, almost like a death card. But I think that they're kind of stuck in their mindset. It has also very much an Eight of Cups vibe in the sense, no, not an Eight of Cups, Eight of Swords, like they're just kind of stuck in their own mindset and keeping themselves trapped there. And the Nine of Swords, of course, is the card that follows the Eight of Swords, so this might be the evolved version of that. They're just kind of stuck in a certain mindset, and they don't seem to mind it too much, which is what the Hanged Man is pointing towards being in reverse. They may need to change their thinking about certain things, so if they want to progress. But are we ever going to see any justice out of this? We have the Wheel. The Wheel's in reverse, so I think that also points toward it being stuck and unable to turn, at least not able to turn very quickly. Then we have Death in reverse. Yeah, we're definitely not going to cause anything new to happen anytime soon. And next is the Seven of Pentacles in reverse as well. We had that earlier over here, Seven of Pentacles, way in the beginning, but that was a whole different situation, so not quite relevant. Still, we have another card that's come up twice. So I feel like the path that they're on, whoever is working on this case, is not going to lead them anywhere, but they might not notice this for a while. Even though they're pretty optimistic here with the Five of Cups being in reverse, that they're just kind of focusing on the good things, but at least the good things, the things that they do have that they can work on, but they're kind of like on a dead end, and comfortably so, I would say, which is not good. Obviously, the wheel cannot turn in this case, and that cannot enact what I said earlier. It cannot break down the old in order to reveal the new. And they are definitely harvesting these the results of their actions here with the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. Are we going to see a breakthrough? Because after a while you have to kind of look at what you've reached so far and conclude that you haven't exactly gone much further than you were before. Magician in reverse. Okay, so we're just not capable to move on. There's a lack of capability to continue or to move out of this situation. They're just not able to let go of this track that they're on. We almost need to find somebody else who can work on this case, it seems, because they're not really able to let go of the old. So whatever it is that they're doing right now is not leading them anywhere good. Oh, yeah, one card over here that flew out. And the sun is also in reverse. Okay, this one looks very similar to the moon from before. So whatever it is that they're doing, it's not lining up anything that they haven't seen already. So I feel like they're not going to reach a very satisfying conclusion. At least not anytime soon. Can we get anything for perhaps the distant future? Are they ever going to break out of this? Are we ever going to see justice for Diane and Jennifer? This one. Okay. The Three of Cups. Okay, so it's definitely eventually going to be a positive cooperation. They may find something. I think this also might point towards them having to make connections to people that they aren't currently involving in order to break out of this. So they might want to possibly try to reach out to more people so that they can perhaps get into a better mindset. Because I feel like before, this is kind of like a very singular focus on one thing or a couple of things, and they just need to break out of that. Possibly do something unconventional by involving people that wouldn't normally be involved and having some type of communion with them in order to break through this. I don't see in these cards that we are going to see a positive result anytime soon, however. But there might be in the distant future where people are involved that can perhaps open this case up and bring in some new light and some fresh air in order to perhaps change this perspective that they were stuck on over here and might still be stuck on right now. So that is what I'm seeing for Diane and Jennifer. I hope you found that interesting. Make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. If you'd like to subscribe, that's also very much appreciated. If you have any cases that you'd like me to do, make sure to check the description box below where I have a link to an anonymous Google form. You can leave your case. It'll get added to the list. Of course, the list is quite long, so if you haven't seen anybody that you've suggested pop up on my channel yet, they probably will at some time in the future. Whenever there is a case that I do not want to do, I will put that in my community tab. So if I am not going to do your reading, you'll see it there. So if you haven't seen anything about that yet, it should still be on the list. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in another video, and bye bye for now.